Richmond, 96 double. Hot, hot.
99.7 KRED.
Tell you, man, you leading the league in hydration.
Aurora.
I've eaten burritos bigger than you.
This is Running Wild with Brandon Jackson.
Let's go, guys. It's a game.
Run Wild, everybody. It's Brandon Jackson here, 99.3 KRED in Aurora. Running Wild in the morning with you guys. How we all doing? Talking Red Foxes football. Red Foxes are on the bye week. They just had their home game against Colorado State. Did not go the way that they wanted it to. A 38-14 loss. And I was on the up and up last week with everything. You know, the Red Foxes put up 24 points, even though Wyoming put up 45. I mean, they were playing against a pretty good Mountain West Conference team and a NFL prospect quarterback. So I guess in my mind, I thought, you know what, 45-24 isn't bad. And it's not to say that they just flat out stunk this week. That's not the case at all. It's just kind of demoralizing a little bit. 38-14 your final. They played very well, or maybe not very well as they possibly could have in the first quarter and up until about the second, up until about like 2 minutes left in the second quarter. Outside of the pick six, that they went down and they scored twice. The pick six should have been another score. We could have possibly had an Aurora 21-0 game in that second quarter. And for the game to end 38-14, it felt weird. You know, it felt like this team could have definitely done better. So maybe that's a good thing that they underperformed a little bit and did a little worse than what they should have, because that means that they are capable, but at the same time, there's something demoralizing about that where you had a lead, it could have been even bigger, and then by the end of the game, you kind of got blown out. So let's talk about it. We'll actually jump into your questions. I'm going to get them all up here on the screen. Remember, if you want to be featured on the show, I do take questions. You just leave them in the comment section below. We're going to be covering a bit of recruiting today as well, so since it's a bye week, I imagine that's what the questions are going to be about. We're actually going to do a full-blown segment today since there will be no Red Foxes football to really talk about other than practices and what's going on with Mashburn. So remember, you can follow along with us online and leave your comment down below. I'm going to look at them here. I've got a few. I apologize if I don't get to all of them. I'm doing my best here. Okay, let's see. First question comes from Troll ENT. Okay, he's got two quick questions for me. Can you go into detail about the Mashburn setup for the secondary? And looking at the offense, the problem seems to be consistency. And when they do get consistency, it seems to be too late. What do you think is the key to fixing that besides Gaines being sidelined? Run wild. Run wild, Troll ENT. So, for what I know about Mashburn's setup for the secondary, he likes to, and this happened a lot in Wyoming as well, he likes to get pressure. And I think we saw a little bit more of that towards a little bit of the second half, maybe more towards the first half is when it really happened. He wants to run 3-4 defense. And I think week 2 against Wyoming exposed that a little bit. So now he's going more towards nickel packages and betraying the 3-4 to defend against 4 wide sets, because that's what he's been up against more often. USC, he could go ahead and run a 3-4. Now he's doing more, 1-5-5s, 2-4-5s. He's trying to get as many secondary members back there as possible, because Paul Beneventi is the leading tackler on this team. And as good of a tackler as Paul is, it's not a good sign that your cornerback is a leading tackler or your lead tackler at all. So the setup, he's relying a lot, and he's still waiting. I mean, you did see Dante Devine make a play, but you want to see Dante Devine get more turnovers. He has Ishmael Finn-Michaels redshirted this year. He's another guy that he thinks can be a playmaker. But in terms of secondary setup, it's pretty standard. But now I think he's going to probably get more nickel corner involved, so he can at least get 3 guys back up there, because he's just constantly getting burned by the speed of the receivers of other teams. So I guess that's what he's really kind of doing for a secondary setup. Second question, I think the way that you fix that is that you keep burning clock the way that he does, because you're not going to be able to mask up too many of the problems. It's a talent issue. They need more talent in order to really do what Mashburn wants to do. So I say eat up clock is what you do there. In terms of getting more consistent, you run the game plan. From what I've seen and what worked last week, you continue to use motion and stretch out when you have Timberlake on the field. You find ways to get Isaiah Irving involved early. Those are the 2 playmakers and the guys that will make plays. So you've got to create ways to get them involved and make the secondary react to you rather than the secondary dictate, what you do. So, it's a complicated question and a complicated answer, but that's really kind of the best I can do there in terms of kind of solving their problems. Let's go ahead and jump into another question here. This one from Yee Boy. Given the outcome of the game, do you think that this opens up the opportunity for Leventhal to find his way into the starting spot while Gaines is out? Also, do you think the dismal performance by the quarterbacks this week settles any uncertainty about Gaines' future as a starter? Love the show and run wild. Run wild, Yee Boy. I don't think Leventhal is going to be finding his way into the starting spot anytime soon. He's a freshman. He's still rough around the edges. He clearly needs more experience. He needs to learn a lot more. So I don't think he's going to be finding his way into the starting lineup anytime soon. I still think that the starting quarterback going into next week is going to be John Hendricks, and I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be, unless Gaines comes back. So to answer your second question, does it settle any uncertainty about Gaines? I don't think the... Yes. You know what? Actually, probably. If Gaines comes back and he's healthy and there's no injury problems, I think that it's fairly certain that Mashburn wants someone who can do both, which is essentially run and be able to pass. That's what he had when he had Brett Smith over there at Wyoming at quarterback, and I think that's more or less what he's looking for. John Hendricks doesn't really have the ability for him to do read option and expand the offense the way that he wants to. So I imagine, yes, Gaines is more than likely protected in his spot, unless he absolutely blows up and does a terrible job when he comes back. All right, looking around here, let's see. Well, let's take this one. John FC. Hey, Brandon, quick question. How many seasons do you think it will take Mashburn to get good on defense? Thanks. Love the show down south here in Mexico. Run wild. I don't have a colloquialism to really say. I kind of had one in mind, and I was like, I don't. Yeah, never mind. But hey, it's good to see a bridge kind of being built here with our Mexican neighbors. I think it's going to probably take about 2 or 3 years. I mean, it kind of depends on what your definition of good is. If you want to say competent, I think it'll take less than that. I think they'll be competent and more disciplined in about probably even this year is when it can happen. I think they're not actually going to be a good defense until about 2 or 3 years into the system and getting more talent and being able to have guys who have the speed to be able to make the plays that he wants, especially up front, because they're losing the trenches battle pretty badly. And I think that that's where most of it begins for Mashburn and that defense. So thanks for the question, John. Let's see, jump into another one here. Oh, looks like we're going to the other side of the border. This one from North Bambino. Hey, Brandon, love the show. I'm Brandon from Canada. Oh, so a namesake, and he's from Canada, eh? Once Gaines is back is healthy again, will he be given the starting job right away, or will Hendricks be given a chance to prove himself? Unless Hendricks absolutely blows everything away come Western Kentucky, it seems that Gaines is going to keep the job. So I have no reason to believe that Hendricks will be the starter. But, I mean, you know, if he does well against Western Kentucky, that may change. I don't have the answer to that. So it seems right now the answer is it's Hendricks. When Gaines comes back, it seems it's going to be Gaines.
Red 2, green 9, go.
This one from Exit. I took Latin. I should know how to say this. Anyway, esports, Exidium Esports. He says, I can see why Aurora is going for Paul Phillips because of his speed. So my question is, if Aurora signs Paul Phillips, will next year's offense be a pound the rock style or more of an air raid? Run Wild, Sunbelt Champs 2016. Hey, that's wishful thinking. You know, if we do become Sunbelt Champs in 2016, I think we will turn a lot of heads and probably turn even more prospects than we have right now. I don't think that this becomes an air raid offense anytime soon. I think that Mashburn's objective is to run his pro-style heavy offense. So there will be a bit of pound the rock because you're always going to have guys like Rojas, and he's always going to want his power backs and his full backs to be there. But he's going to create plays and make it possible to get Paul Phillips involved and make him effective. Don't forget, just because Paul Phillips is fast doesn't mean that he doesn't like using his backs. He's going to find a way to get him involved, the same way that he's pretty much done all year with Marcus Timberlake. So, yeah, I still expect the ground game to be more of a focus. And once he actually gets receivers and tight ends involved, then you're probably going to see a little bit more balance. I don't think he's going to air raid it out and start going like, quick screens and throwing long, deep passes all the time. Alrighty, here's an interesting one from Charles Berger. Brandon, big-time question here. If Winslet keeps performing like he has, could there be a controversy between Timberlake and Rojas? Running Wild from Littleton, Colorado. Hey, we got a Rocky here. Run Wild. Yes, Run Wild indeed. So, and that's an interesting one because I didn't really get to jump into anything about Winslet this week. So Winslet has actually done a very good job of doing what Timberlake is not able to do. So Timberlake is very good when you get him out on the perimeter and you get him to the outside, you run little screens for him. He knows how to be shifty and has the speed and at least enough agility to make guys miss. Whereas Vernon Winslet, who is a freshman, by the way, Vernon Winslet has the ability to run between the tackles. Whether you run sweeps or you run dives straight up the middle for him, he's actually been able to get through the line and be able to get yardage. Whether it's a small 6-yard gain. There was a 20-yard gain where he ran straight between the guard and tackle, and then broke a tackle, and then just constantly just moved his feet forward. He's a very good runner in that regard. So I don't think necessarily that Winslet will be creating a controversy because, like I said, Mashburn loves his running backs. You fullbacks, big backs, fast backs, whichever one they are. He wants to find a way to get them involved and get them involved in either the passing game or the run game. And he does like running the offense from that full house set. So there may even be plays where he goes ahead and he says, hey, you know what? We're going to get you involved in the pass and the run and have all three of them in the backfield at the same time. I mean, you're going to see that a lot where Rojas, Winslet, and Timberlake are back there all together. And then sometimes you'll see different combinations with the fullback Mac McGee there as well. All right, we'll take one more question before we go ahead and get into recruiting. I apologize. This took a little longer than I thought. I wanted to try to get as many questions for you guys, you know? I don't get a chance to really see all of you guys. Okay, so let's see here. Team Chatsworth asks if Hendricks has another knee injury, he will step up as QB. Well, if Gaines is in there, it's either Leventhal or Miguel D'Souza. D'Souza is a pure runner. Not really. I mean, the second you put D'Souza in, it's run city, essentially. So it's either going to be him or Leventhal. Okay, I'll take one more. Let's see. Who do I have here? Okay, how about this one? From Chris James, he says, there seems to be improvements from week to week. They're small, but they are there. I definitely agree with that. The outcome wasn't great, but the run game took a big step forward this week. Brandon, what do you think Mashburn is going to focus on for the game against Western Kentucky? Okay, that's actually a good question because Western Kentucky is an interesting opponent. And yes, run wild. Western Kentucky, they got some big boys on there on defense, especially on the line. So I feel like Mashburn is going to be dealing with a lot of pressure and blitzes. So I think the focus this week is going to be getting the ball out quickly, especially with Hendricks, and trying to find ways to, again, spread that defense out because they may have speed. But I think that with Timberlake and with Irving, we have the right guys with the right amount of speed to be able to counterbalance them as well. I think that that's got to be the focus, is to stretch out Western Kentucky, make them play our game and control the clock. I think the longer that we can control the clock and at least force their offense to stay off the field, they'll be okay. So I think you keep doing what you're doing with controlling the clock and then continue to spread and get the ball out quickly. So I believe that's what Mashburn's focus is going to be. We'll end the questions there. We'll be back with what happened this week in high school football and talk a little bit recruiting. You're listening to 99.3 KRED in Aurora. Be right back. .3 KRED in Aurora. You're listening to Running Wild with Brandon Jackson here. Let's go ahead and cover the recruits for this week and also talk about 5 high school games this week since there will be a bye week and the Red Foxes will be sleeping in. Let's go ahead and go over the big board here that we have thus far. Here is who Aurora currently has as their prospects who have them at number 1 thus far. As we mentioned, the speedy running back, Paul Phillips, still number 1 on his list. The tight end, Chuck Ofarije. Wide receiver, DJ Smith. Guard, Michael Ecker. Guard, Vincent Williams. We finally jumped in the first place with him. Kansas State, not too far behind, and then Utah State trailing a bit there. We also have Charles Clark on board, a guard from New Mexico. Quarterback, Mike Hayes. Wide receiver, Cade Montgomery. Strong safety, Atticus Wynn. Middle linebacker, Noah Baldwin. So it seems like we have all of Durango with DJ Smith, Mike Hayes, and Noah Baldwin. Defensive end, Dylan Sherville, a little behind, but we're still in a tight race there to try to bring him in. And then defensive tackle, Jamarcus Johnston. So far, it looks like a total of 12. 12 is what we're looking like we can bring in thus far. We still have fullback Al Weddle, who finally is ready for a visit. He will come in for the Texas State game, a game which I actually think we can win against Texas State. So that should be an interesting one for him to sit down and watch and see where this award team is at that point. And then also notable, Andy Rooker. It seems like it's long gone trying to get Andy. Looks like he's on his way to Colorado. He's really kind of pulled away with them being the favorite. You also have tackle Jalen Johnson. Well, actually, it's a bit of a tight race. It's not too far off. You could still possibly get him. Colorado State is currently ahead. I imagine the game that we just had did not help our case. You also have strong safety Victor Oyewole. Kansas just seems like the by far favorite for him. Seems like he just wants to go big conference, Big 12. So that's where he's. Seems like he's headed. We're in second place, but it's a far, far way away from Kansas. And then people had actually questions about this guy, TJ Henderson. Well, the race isn't tightening anytime soon. It seems like Central Michigan and Iowa have pulled away. And TJ Henderson may be off the board very, very soon. Expecting him to make a decision sometime in the next couple of weeks. And then, of course, the big name in Colorado, Darian Bowles. Still in third place. Still trying to climb up there, see if they can make a play for him. Utah and BYU seem like they're slightly starting to pull away a bit. Utah on top. I imagine the allure of playing for a Pac-12 team would easily bring in Darian, but it's interesting that both Utah teams are here on this board trying to take away Darian. It seems like the Mormons are trying to convert him. So let's go ahead and jump into the high school games this week. You ready? Here we go. If you're watching online, you can see it here. Here is quarterback for Colorado Springs, Bryson Hill, taking the carry there. Big hit. He's actually another senior quarterback who is on the board and may actually be getting some interest from Mashburn, number 6 for Colorado Springs, as Colorado Springs took on Moore High. There you can see a little screenplay there. Bryson Hill got rewarded with a touchdown, and then Moore's quarterback TJ Henderson from Air Force Academy, Colorado, breaking a tackle from Victor Oyewole. 63-yard run there for the score. And then on the next drive for Colorado Springs, Bryson Hill keeping himself, running it in for the touchdown for the Blazers. And then we would also get his big tight end here, Carmel Gibson, involved into the game. A big gain there. Carmel Gibson, 3 catches, 64 yards, and a touchdown in this one. Bryson Hill, 15 for 20, 238 yards, 2 TDs. 12 rushes on the ground, 109 yards, 2 TDs on the ground as well. And you can see there, Johnny Manziel-like ability to just kind of get out of the pocket and make a play. And here's TJ Henderson doing his best to keep his team alive, getting wide receiver Dan Pierce involved, a wide receiver that Mashburn really wanted but has shown no interest and does not want to talk with Aurora whatsoever. Dan Pierce had a decent game, 4 catches, 64 yards. TJ Henderson, 16 for 27, 193 yards, 7 rushes, 62 yards, 2 TDs. One of those big rushes there. But Victor Oyewole, though he had a terrible time tackling today, actually made a big return right here for Colorado Springs, as Colorado Springs and Moore High would actually go into overtime. That play right there would actually close the gap within a touchdown, and then a big throw here by Hill to Gibson, which will lead to another score and send it into overtime. And it's here, the overtime winning touchdown by Bryson Hill on the read option keeper. Ran it in, and then the defense absolutely destroyed Henderson on 4th down here. Helicopter move. Actually had to be taken back for concussion protocol. It seems like he is okay. And Colorado Springs would take the victory here, 31-24 in overtime. Let's go over to Denver. Durango versus St. Joe's Prep. Durango becoming a bit of a breeding ground for Mashburn prospects. And see DJ Smith making the catch there, and then later on Mike Hayes pump fake and throw deep downfield from his own 45. Touchdown DJ Smith. But part of the story here was that St. Joe's could not capitalize on defensive opportunities and on offense either. A dropped pick there by junior free safety Charlie Morgan, and then DJ Smith would score his 2nd touchdown later on. You saw there, that was Noah Baldwin getting run over. And then later on, you see a little screen pass here set up for DJ Smith. But the big story for St. Joe's, other than their missed opportunity, Rylan Kaiser, the feisty wide receiver, having another big day here for St. Joe's. 13 catches, 231 yards, and a touchdown. And they went to Kaiser a lot, but at times it ended up biting them. You see here again, Kaiser making yet another catch. Just a lot of nice little short passing routes there, but there you go. There was the pick where St. Joe's just threw it too many times to him, and eventually Durango got smart to it. Mike Hayes continuing to show off that big arm. His ability to go ahead and throw bullet passes 30 yards downfield and really kind of create opportunities for guys like DJ Smith. DJ Smith there would score his third touchdown. That one was on the ground. A little sweep there to him. And then Rylan Kaiser, you can see him here still working all throughout this game. St. Joe's was down 21-0 in this one. Could not come back. They take their first loss of the year. A favorite to win the state championship, already taking their first loss to Durango, who is still undefeated, 35-28. Let's head on out to Greeley for one of the big name prospects in all of Colorado. Darian Bowles having himself another big game for the Greeley Panthers. Here he is here, making a nice little screen pass here. And later on, jet sweep play action, gets the ball right back to him. Juke move, dives into the end zone. Big game for him, 11 catches, 195 yards, 2 touchdowns. But for Littleton, it was all about the return of Johan Mondrasso from his injury. Didn't seem to affect him one bit on that deep pass there to Cam Frazier. Rolling out left here, gets it out to his other junior wide receiver, Aiden Aldridge. And then Aiden Aldridge gets another catch there, one of his only 2 catches. That one for a touchdown to help tie it back up for the Littleton Vikings. And then the big tight end, Chuck Oferije, that raw beast athlete that they got there at tight end, showing you what he can do here. Look at him here on the crossing pattern. Mondrasso throwing it right to the back of the end zone for him. Another touchdown for the Vikings. But that did not stop Darian Bowles whatsoever in this game. Seemed like no matter who he was matched up against, he got what he wanted, especially here on the freshman corner. Remember this guy's name, Jabari Bowen, because right here, Darian Bowles absolutely mossed him, went right up top, picked that ball out of the sky, even though Jabari was in great position there and made the play. He would be back in this game later on, though. And again, Chuck Oferije, the tight end, he had a huge game in this one. 6 catches, 113 yards, 2 TDs, and then this was the last play here. Look at that interception by Jabari. Jabari way behind on this one. Littleton was only up by 8. If Greeley had scored here in the 4th, this could have sent the game into overtime. But Jabari, the freshman, diving in front of that one to make the catch, gets 1 foot inbounds, just enough needed to seal the victory for Littleton, 38-30. Johan Mondrasso, 19 for 31, 368 yards, a little pedestrian from his 600-yard performance, but still good nonetheless. 4 touchdowns, and then Cam Frazier and Aiden Aldridge, his junior wide receivers. Frazier, 7 receptions, 127, and as we mentioned earlier with Aiden, 2 receptions, 26 yards, 1 touchdown. Off to Boulder we go. Got to pay attention to the defense and the battle in the trenches. You see number 76 there, only a junior. He's left tackle Jordan Jones-Carter, absolutely protecting. Look at the pocket that Rashad Sutherland, the quarterback there for Aspen, gets. Nice little touchdown there. And then pay attention to number 90, his brother Rogue Jones-Carter, another junior. And then senior defensive tackle who does have interest in Aurora, Jamarcus Johnston, absolutely wreak havoc on Boulder in this game. There you go. You get to see Rogue there making the play in the backfield, bringing down the quarterback. And then again, look at the pocket that Rashad Sutherland gets to go ahead and roll out right. Easy throw there, and you can just see the absolute talent difference between Aspen and Boulder. But it did give a chance for Karuga Koinange to go ahead and have a big game here. Karuga, they tried to get that left guard, Vincent Williams, another guy interested. See him here, number 76, create the seal there, and go ahead and get Karuga gone there. The only touchdown Boulder would score in this game, but you got to see a little bit of speed there from Karuga and what he can do. But again, look at that. Just Jones-Carter absolutely laying out anybody in his sight. And then his brother Rogue just absolutely laying havoc in the backfield. All the pressure that they put on Boulder there during this game was incredible. There's Johnston there making a play. And then the corner, Meadows, Zion Meadows. You see him there playing a little wide receiver, getting a touchdown. absolutely wrecked shot on Boulder in this one, 42-9. Jones Carter, 11 tackles, 2 tackles for a loss. Jamarcus Johnson, 5 tackles, 1.5 sacks. And then Zion Meadows, as you saw there, he had 3 pass deflections, but also got a receiving touchdown in that way. One, Karuga, 4 carries, 93 yards. That big touchdown there, 5 catches, 27 yards. Let's go ahead and move on to the last game. Sunrise versus Denver. Pay attention to one guy in this one. Number 27 of Sunrise High, Robert Watson. He is still available. Mashburn may want to pay attention to him after the game that he had here. I promise you he's not that fast. Look at him get outrun by his quarterback. Power back trying to throw a block for the quarterback. Quarterback doesn't need it. Runs free for the end zone there. And then again here, look at this. Another keeper. Dylan Shervill actually was supposed to make the play there and got tripped up at the last minute by the tackle, which stopped him from making the play and ran free for the touchdown. But Robert Watson was the story in this one. Just look at him. Powering through, breaking tackles, continuing through contact, shoving off guys, not caring and getting whatever yardage he can. Sunrise, we were actually looking forward to seeing Cade Montgomery in this one, but they kept it on the ground at all times. They did not pass once, so we didn't get to see Cade Montgomery, who has shown interest in Aurora and could possibly be coming here next year. But Robert Watson, again, the big story in this one, just diving through tackles and continuing to make his way to the end zone at all costs and powering through any tackle he saw. Big game for him. 23 carries, 308 yards, a school record, 5 touchdowns, a school record. No wonder they kept it on the ground. Sunrise demolishes Denver, 49-21. Dylan Shervill, of note, since he is a recruit that Mashburn is looking at, only 3 tackles in the loss. That'll wrap it up this week for Running Wild. This is Brandon Jackson. I will see you next week when we take on Western Kentucky, 99.3 KRED and Aurora. See you then.